We have an interruption of oil flows, and we want to fill it every way we can, from SPRs, from floating barrels that are just lined up to go into China, to any other actions we can take. With unsanctioning, I mean, within days, within 3 or 4 days, that oil will start to arrive at ports. And of course, most refineries are near ports. So pretty quickly, pretty quickly.
The White House lifting sanctions on millions of barrels of Iranian oil as the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively, for the most part, shut down. Let's dive into the topic with EPA Administrator, the great Lee Zeldin. Always great to have you with us, my friend. Let me just share this right off the bat. The Wall Street Journal, again, talking about the spike in prices, and this is why it's so relevant to American consumers. It says right here, Saudi Arabia sees a spike to $180 of oil, that would be per gallon, if energy shock persists past April. That may be a little projection. What do you read into that? And is that a lot of hair on fire fear talk?
Well, the president is doing so much to help make sure that we're keeping oil down as low as possible during this conflict. As was just referenced in that clip with Secretary Wright, the 400 million gallons released, including over 170 million by the United States from our strategic petroleum reserve, new offshore drilling off the coast of California, political risk insurance for tankers heading through the strait, offers to help with passage through the strait. The list goes on of so many different ways that the president has been taking action to help keep oil prices low. I will tell you, I just got back from Japan, where the White House was doing the National Energy Dominance Council, meeting with Indo-Pacific countries. And now these nations are actually looking more to the United States for oil, for LNG. They're saying, you know what? Okay, it took me 28 days to get our energy supplies from the Middle East without freedom of navigation through the strait. For the last 60 years, I've been getting energy supplies from Alaska with total freedom of navigation, no issue. Maybe we should be looking more to the United States. So the president's push for energy dominance is being highlighted now more than ever.
Well, listen, the Asian nations in particular are heavily reliant on what happens in the Strait. They need this thing to be open. You would hope, and one would certainly expect, that more of our allies would become more engaged in making certain that the free flow of energy, not just through the Strait, but globally, is something that involves us all and should also create let's just say, a mandate to do something about it from everyone and not just the U.S.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kevin. And there were a couple of dozen new deals that were entered into during this event. Over $56 billion of new deals with United States companies. There's a lot of talk in the Indo-Pacific about diversifying their supply chain for energy, not relying as much in the Middle East. And to your point, as far as having this coalition to help ensure passage through the strait, a lot of these Indo-Pacific countries and other nations are saying, hey, this isn't a United States problem.
That's right.
This is important for us to step up and do our part. And we need to continue to see more of that.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the state of California. You know, drilling off the coast there is something that's been a priority for this administration. Again, saying let's go all in. Let's get as much energy to the marketplace as we can possibly give it, because lower cost of energy benefits all American households. And yet the governor there, Gavin Newsom, is trying to put the brakes on this. Let me share a little sound. This is from Sable Offshore Corporation CEO Jim Flores. He's responding to what the governor is saying there about, again, eliminating that possibility. Get your reaction on the other side.
The more of this going on has run so many people out of the state, and we're one of the few people investing in the state and trying to get help it. And Gavin should be doing the math and realizing that, hey, this is the best thing happened to lower consumer prices for Californians.
As someone who knows all about the energy challenges of the Golden State, having lived out there myself, and I know you've traveled there a million different times, this is beyond the pale. People want lower energy costs, and by making it more difficult to bring energy to the market in the Golden State does not help consumers there. That's the argument from the administration. Your thoughts?
All this talk about affordability. Well, people who want to be able to afford to have energy, to have electricity, to be able to fill up their gas tanks, when you go to these gas stations in California and you see it's so much higher than the national average. California is a beautiful state.
It's amazing.
California should be thriving, and in ways that right now that they're not experiencing, because every single day, and as a New Yorker, I see it on the other coast, people are fleeing these states permanently. They're not just putting a state in a timeout, they're leaving and they're not looking back. California is losing billionaires, they're losing businesses. They're also losing a whole lot of middle-income people as well who decide their money goes so much further elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's important for these state-level officials, for these local officials in these blue states to be making life more affordable. And on the energy front, they're just not doing it in California.
Yeah, got to do more also with nuclear. People can talk about it, and they have visions of 3 Mile Island and other things like that. But the truth is, it can be very, very effective in generating a lot more energy. And I know the states are trying to do that, California notwithstanding. Real quick, about 15 seconds, I'm going to share this from the New York Times. It's a headline, 24 states suing the EPA for renouncing its power to fight climate change. I know I'm not giving you a ton of time to react, but I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, we just announced with President Trump what is the largest action of deregulation in the history of the United States of America. We got rid of the 2009 Obama endangerment finding, all the light, medium, and heavy-duty greenhouse gas emission standards, and got rid of that off-cycle credit, including the annoying start-stop feature on vehicles, gone.
Yes.
So, listen, every decision I make as EPA administrator, I understand I'm going to get sued, but making vehicles $2,400 more affordable, to be able to not need as much of this very expensive EV infrastructure. We know that we're on the right track. At the end of the day, it's just about following the law. We're going to follow the best reading of the Clean Air Act, and we're going to do it without any apology or regret.
Always great to have you with us, and I really enjoy you when I get to see you on Gutfeld. You're a good sport. Lee Zeldin, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate that.